RogueTech, tread not. Welcome back to RogueTech. We're going to do a fantasy sequence or dream sequence where we drop down on something really difficult. It looks like I'm going to go ahead and pick a escort mission here. We're going to give that a shot down there. Whatever happens, good or bad, it's not going to be kept. I'm going to come back to this point and reload, and we will continue on with the campaign as normal. I wouldn't drop on this if you paid me, but I did want to see what a difficulty level 21, 3, something like that would be in this game, in RogueTech. So we'll get a chance to see that. I'm also going to cut this down. The actual runtime for this recording was 2 hours and 46 minutes. So we'll cut this bit down and try to get this into something a little bit more reasonable. So I'll try to hit the highlights. So thanks again for coming back and joining me. Let's go see what happens in my dreams. I'm going to keep the same mechs on since the last mission, first squad. Atlas for tanking, Mechagodzilla Templar for some range damage, and the Screamer for melee. But we're going to continue in to add some more guys here as well. And I think what I want to do is to add... I'm going to do I'm not going to do the Godzilla, the Thunderzilla, but we will put in the Marauder. He's got some decent range to him. He's got a little bit of the Inferno and EMP. Plus, I also have, in the future, I want to replace the Inferno with Acid, which should help with some additional damage from range. That'll be nice. Definitely the Stalker's always solid. Gives us the chance to lay landmines and also a lot of indirect. And then I think what we want to put in here is, I definitely need to get the Highlander, I think, in there. I've got it partially built out. It's just basically an anti-missile mech at the moment. I do want to spend about 5 million credits on it to put in an XL engine so that we can give it a little bit more functionality, maybe increase its engine size, increase its jump jets. He can also jump down on stuff if he wants to with DFA. We'll throw Optio into the Stalker as we usually do. I want to put somebody with controlled burst into the Marauder since he's got some ballistic stuff going on there. And then as far as the Highlander goes, what with Scrub? Scrub's always been our Aegis ECM anti-missile dude. So, and then the last thing I think we need to put in the other melee mech. I mean, if I'm going to have a chance to do the damage that I need to, we all know that the melee mechs are very effective, if not crunchy, so we'll give that a shot. And I do have space here for the the Berserker Behemoth, and then we'll go ahead and we'll throw Lightfoot on that. All right, well, let's go ahead and drop down on this, and we'll see how things turn out. All right, so we've got ourselves a difficulty level 21 escort mission. Most I've been dropping down so far has been difficulty 11 to 13, so this is a whole spectrum above that. And I see down there at the bottom the commander says we're going to do some carrier work here. So hopefully I can get the carriers in on this as well. So there are 2 ramps over here up towards where the convoy is that we need to meet up. So I want to drop down below the ramps to avoid getting shot at on the first turn. Again, I'm not really sure what I'm going to run into. It could be a whole bunch of assaults. It could be a bunch of super heavies. I don't know, and that's one of the reasons why we're doing the dream sequence, just what kind of configuration we're going to deal with. So I'll get the Atlas out front with this whole setup, and then I'll put everybody else a little bit farther behind some buildings for cover. In the first half of the turn, the missile barrages that come in are fairly light, so I'm feeling like we might be dealing with a composition that is not missile heavy. For my first move, I decided to move the Marauder up under cover to potentially scout a little bit better. And then I also moved the Atlas up into a position where he can start to fulfill his role as tank. It's at this point that I discovered that the Stalker has been turreted against the building. So I'll have to destroy the building to be able to move. So I'm going to do a multi-target. I'm going to drop my Thunder Mines next to the Atlas. I'm going to do another mech that's further back that we see here, which turns out to be an Annihilator. And I'll do one load against the building, which is just about all I need to take the building down. Hopefully I don't miss anything. Of course, I do. To get the last bit of damage in that building next to the Stalker, the Behemoth will move up and drop a couple of HE rounds against it, and that takes the building down. The rest of the turn I used to move the remaining mechs up along the bottom of the ramps, trying to stay out of direct range fire, but also being ready for the next turn when the sensors become operative. At the beginning of turn 2, we get our sensors up and we get pings on 12 mechs on the field. Turns out there's actually 18 out there. I only see the first 12. There are 8 assaults, 4 heavies, all legendary mechs. There's an Atlas Boarhead, there's a Ebon Jaguar S, there's a Warhammer 2C, a Roken 2 GB, a Zeus X3, an Archer 6 WDR, a Mad Cat Lady Killer, a Juggernaut RT14, an Omega Matar with the BFG 9000, it's a 350-point railgun, a Diva Achilles, an Annihilator Kurushi, and a Warhammer Widowmaker out there to play with. The Catapult and Marauder continue to lay down minefields. The first significant amount of damage done is by the Kurushi against the Atlas with 4 of its AC-10s. By the end of the turn, the Atlas has moved close enough for a strike from our Screamer, who goes in for a hit, but doesn't quite get the kill.
Locked on for physical attack.
The Widowmaker is up next and does significant amounts of damage against the Stalker.
Taking heavy hits, Commander.
Taking advantage of the downed Boar's Head Atlas, the Mechagodzilla moves up for a shot into the shoulder with an XL engine for the kill. The Screamer has been repositioned further off to the right so that we can be in position to hit the Kurushi or Warhammer Widowmaker in a following turn, hiding behind a building. Unfortunately, the Templar, taking a shot down the path here, destroys his cover. Upon advancing, the Stalker takes a salvo of Inferno missiles at the Widowmaker to deter his use of all of his energy weapons. The Warhammer 2C6 then advances and punishes the Screamer for its lack of cover. And again, the Annihilator Kurushi applies more punishment to the Atlas, who's very well armored. The Atlas is moved up and out of the way to allow the Marauder to move in for a delivery of punishing damage against the Widowmaker. Not to be outdone, the Widowmaker then returns the damage to the Stalker, who is now perilously thin on some armor. Having the opportunity to move before the Screamer, the Warhammer 2C6 continues to deliver punishment for his lack of cover. Dextor and the Templar moves into a more exposed position to get a shot on the Roadkin down the way and ends up stripping off all the armor on one arm. Having had enough with the Widowmaker, the Marauder, who is closed in with these two units, decides to hit the Widowmaker from behind. Unfortunately, he doesn't get the kill. The attack on the Widowmaker leaves the Marauder in an exposed position from the Annihilator, so the Screamer comes in to hit the Annihilator from the rear. Or so he had hoped. Now that both the Screamer and Marauder are in exposed position to a Annihilator with no damage and no debuffs, the Saberwolf moves forward in the Marauder 4L to shoot and kill the Widowmaker on the ground. The Stalker moves into cover and continues to drop more minefields over in the biggest congregation of enemy mechs. The Kurushi Annihilator moves back and takes aim at the Screamer who missed him and applies critical damage. The Screamer continues to take critical damage from missile barrage from the Royakin on the other side via indirect attack. In an effort to protect the Screamer's exposed side, I move the Behemoth out into a more exposed position as decoy and apply damage to the Royakin, who's already had his armor stripped off the arm. Mechagodzilla steps out and attempts to apply more critical damage to the Roikin. The Mad Cat Lady Killer applies the most serious damage so far in this mission to the Mechagodzilla. Morpheum in the Marauder decides to take a shot at the Kirushiu Annihilator. He's going to hit him from the side so that he can leverage the building to block line of fire from most of the other mechs. We do discover at this point that the pilot within the Kirushiu Annihilator has a 3-point piloting advantage over Morpheum's max of 10 plus 2 from all of the stuff that he's got in there. So this guy's got a piloting skill of at least 15. Meanwhile, the Stalker continues to lay minefields in the central plaza. Dex and the Templar sensor locks and continues to lay fire down into the Lycan 2. The Screamer retreats into a more defensive position to try to avoid damage to his open side. A second Roikin from the 3rd squad comes into play and applies even more damage onto the Mechagodzilla, who is now starting to seriously hurt on armor. We get a slight break when the Diva in the back, trying to shoot at one of my units, ends up hammering the Ryuko that just joined the party in the back. The Hargel Gel that's been repairing the Mechagodzilla can't keep up with incoming punishment. The Mad Cat hits again and opens up a leg.
Damage. Critical.
Then the Omega jumps into the fray and adds even more damage on the Mechagodzilla. And now, Von Cobra is beginning to panic. The Behemoth moves forward to shoot at the Zeus and provide decoy coverage for Mechagodzilla because he's getting in a bad way. The Ebon Jaguar maneuvers and puts some fire down on the Mechagodzilla, pushing his heat into the prototype dual heat sinks warning area. It may explode. The Warhammer 2C lines up its shot against the Mechagodzilla, drops some more damage down, and one of the heat sinks just can't take the heat and explodes, destroying patchwork materials and the heatsink. The Diva, sensing the weakness, follows up on the Mechagodzilla and gets their first kill. Once again, the enemy, in the form of the Jaguar taking shots, ends up hitting both the Ebon Jaguar and the Diva and knocks the Jaguar to the ground. The Templar, facing more urgent matters, with the Roikin having charged into our midst, backs up and shoots a wounded side, nearly killing him. The Stalker then lines up the shot to finish off the Roikin 2 for our 4th kill on the map. The Atlas continues its forward assault, taking aim at the Hatamoto Sam, killing him with his shots and bringing the kill count to 5 out of 18. The Marauder, having reserved till after everybody else has moved, lines up on the Lady Killer for a backstab with vigilance, critically wounding it and knocking him to the ground. With the Marauder out in the open, the Screamer, wounded as he is, comes in to hit the Zeus, the fastest mech they have, in the hopes of going before any of the other mechs to escape to safety. And he hits him in the back for the next kill, number 6 of 18. 1 full lance worth of mechs are now dead. The Gambit pays off. On the top of turn 7, the Marauder goes first and is able to move to cover. However, the Screamer isn't quite as lucky. The Warhammer 2C, overheated, moves away, unable to fire, but triggering mines and shrapnel laces the Screamer. Having served its primary purpose of AMS and now out, the Highlander moves into a more exposed position as decoy since he's got most of his armor still. Luck is with the Screamer. The second Roikin decides to shoot at the Atlas rather than him, giving him the chance to escape in the next move.
Good to go.
After continuous punishment, the Behemoth finally succumbs to an attack from the Archer, and they've got their second kill. The Atlas continues its relentless charge forward and takes aim at the Warrior 2C, hitting it in the side, destroying both its arm and torso. From the rear, the Omega lines up its BFG 9000 on the Stalker and hits him for 106 points of armor damage. Luckily, nothing broke. A second Warhammer 2C from the back shoots at the Highlander, who's been running around as a decoy, and opens up an arm. The Templar, firing the last of its standard AC-5 ammo, hits the Diva and destroys its leg and arm.
That bingo ammo.
Two mechs are left to move on the enemy's side, the Black Knight and the Lady Killer. Screamer is going to target the Black Knight, hit him from the back, and with a little bit of luck, we'll kill him. And we get a little bit of luck. Next up is the Marauder, going after the Lady Killer, who's the last to move. This is an assured kill, however, Morphium forgets to do his vigilance. The Atlas continues to move forward, takes aim at the Warhammer, and kills him. We're now at 9 of 18 mechs down. The Screamer, having used his vigilance, moves in 30 and is able to escape again out of harm's way. From the rear, the Stalker reaches out to hit the Ebon Jaguar in the leg and legs him. We've now got 10 mechs down out of 18. Morphium forgetting vigilance means 6 enemy mechs will fire before he goes, and the Archer is the first to give him punishment. After the Archer, the Vulture follows up and places more damage on the right side of Morphium. The Highlander moves in to offer himself as decoy, and the Diva takes him. The Juggernaut, having run hot, fails his heat check and his engine shuts down. 4 of the 6 enemies have now moved. Morphium is feeling lucky. The second Roguekin advances, taking a shot at Morphium and the Marauder, and gets a head hit.
Took a hard hit there.
The Omega takes aim at the Marauder. More internals, more feedback from the DNI. Morphium is incapacitated. The unresponsive mech takes further damage and is destroyed. Then Dex and the Templar takes aim at the Diva and kills it. We're at 7 mechs still standing on the enemy side. Saberwolf advances in the Marauder, takes aim at the Roguekin, and destroys the arm, torso, and leg, knocking him to the ground. The Atlas moves forward and attempts to kill the Roguekin on the floor, and it is a lethal blow to the building instead. Dextor and the Templar moves forward for a shot on the Juggernaut, aims at one of his legs, it's weak, takes it out, and knocks him to the ground. Saberwolf and the Marauder 2 moves forward, targets the Roguekin in the chest, and executes him, bringing the total standing mechs to 6. The Archer sandblasts away more armor off of the Atlas. It's beginning to wear, but he shuts himself down in the process. The Omega takes aim at the Atlas, hits him in the chest with the BFG 9000. Doesn't penetrate the armor, but it is enough to knock him to the ground. Injury on Aristotle. Seeing the opportunity, the Kodak shoots the Atlas for 320 points of damage and opens up one of his torsos. Near the end of the turn, the Screamer decides to target the Archer for a kill, coming in from the back and ending his rain of missiles. At the end of the turn, the Atlas stands up, moves out, and critically injures the Juggernaut. Having used Vigilance last round, Screamer moves first and escapes to safety. With 5 mechs left, the Stalker advances and shoots the Warhammer 2C, destroying multiple heat sinks.
Critical hit, Commander.
The Templar, still in remarkably good shape, moves forward and executes the Juggernaut.
That's a kill.
Saberwolf shoots at the Warhammer with a full round of Gauss rifle and knocks him down to the ground.
Target.
The Omega lines up on the Marauder and gives Saberwolf a BFG 9000 to the chest for 300 points of damage. The Kodiak steps in and tears into him for more armor and structural damage.
Hey,
Sensing the danger that both the Marauder and the Atlas are in, the Screamer decides to come in and execute the Vulture from behind. The Stalker also advances, shoots for the Warhammer's chest, and kills him. 2 mechs left.
mech destroyed.
Saberwolf in the Marauder moves forward, turning his only armored side towards the Omega, fires and destroys the BFG 9000. With the radical heat sinks overheating, Aristotle uses his cooling vent, turns, and shoots just the snub-nosed Gauss. We're all in now, and Screamer moves in to hit the Kodiak from the rear, and misses. The Templar advances and shoots at the Kodiak, doing critical damage to the leg, and exploding the ammo cache in the leg. The AC-20 ammo tears off the right arm and torso. Between the Marauder and the Stalker, they apply lethal damage to the center torso of the Kodiak. We're down to 1 mech.
Enemy destroyed.
In its final attempt, the Omega shoots at the Marauder, doing damage but shutting himself down.
Yes, Commander.
Aristotle, bleeding out, moves the Atlas forward and attacks the remaining mech, the Omega, destroying its leg and knocking it to the ground. Then from the rear, the Stalker throws a lethal salvo and destroys the Omega. With a sigh of relief, everybody has a chance to breathe. 3 friends are down, 18 enemy elites and legendaries are down, but the fight's not over. We still have to escort the remaining carriers to the evac point. Four more mechs have dropped. We still have another Mad Cat Lady Killer, a Lament, an Annihilator, and a Longbow to deal with, along with a Fly and a Freet. With the arrival of the new enemies, the Longbow in the back is the first to draw blood. He throws HE rounds up around my Marauder, my Templar, and my Highlander, causing critical hits. Now that we are reinforced with 4 carriers, the first will be a mortar carrier. We're going to shoot airburst at the Afriti strike craft. Next, the ELRM carrier fires SAMs at the Afrit. The heavy carrier then moves forward and shoots some of its rockets and its MRM-40 at the plainsmen off to our left. The Stalker then fires the most of its remaining SAMs at the Afrit, bringing it down.
Reporting. Vehicle destroyed.
The Templar fires the last remaining AC ammo it has to destroy the plainsman hover tank. The Longbow from the back lobs an attack against the Marauder, causing additional critical hits to its internals. The heavy carrier advances, dropping a set of rockets on the Lament and also providing spotting services for the Screamer. With the heavy carrier exposed, the Lady Killer comes out and destroys it with a volley of UAC fire. The mortar carrier lobs some inferno rounds over at the Lady Killer in hopes to deter it from making an attack. The ELRM carrier is moved forward to provide the spotting services lost from the heavy carrier and drops a volley down on the Lady Killer. With all units moved, the Screamer's turn comes up. He was going to target the Lament, but I've decided to go after the Lady Killer because of its excessive DPS. He goes in for the kill and takes her out. At the top of the 18th round, I'm feeling pressure from the Longbow on all of my other units that have open pieces, so I decide to risk it and go in with the Screamer to try and kill him. I get a knockdown. The Stalker moves up next takes a target onto the Lament and kills him from the side.
Target neutralized.
To my surprise, the Kiroshi Annihilator moves and guards and does not destroy my Screamer. The stress of combat, the bleeding out, Aristotle can't take it any longer.
Down a mech, Commander.
Their mortar carrier drops an Inferno load on the Annihilator. Gets a lucky head hit. The longbow regains its footing and lobs a volley at the Marauder, taking out its leg, knocking it over, causing it injuries, and
Center mass,
Saber
damn
Wolf
it.
ejects. Seeing that the Screamer is too close to be effective, we move him back out to safety. The longbow, having survived volleys from the Stalker and from the ELRM carrier, sends a volley at the Templar, destroying its arm. After a volley of Inferno mortars, the longbow finally succumbs to a volley from the Stalker.
One less target.
The Screamer, having positioned itself at the end of the last turn for visibility on the Annihilator, comes in at the top of the turn to hit it in the back and kill it, reducing all the mechs down. We've killed 26 mechs so far, and now we just got to get the convoy to the evac point. Not to make things too easy, reinforcements land. A Victor and a Zeus land right next to our party and destroy the Screamer's arm.
Can't take much more of this.
The Stalker takes a step forward, turns around, and is able to target the Victor's back with a lethal blow. Much to our relief, the AC-10 carrier is able to turn around and place some AC-10s in the back of the Zeus, killing it. With 28 mechs down, the carriers are now finally approaching the escort zone,
Moving to position.
only to have another drop.
Good work, Commander. Hold this position until the package is underway.
At this point, my remaining units are all critically wounded and or out of ammo, so I have one choice: run away.
Taking a protective stance.
On my way.
I rush the remaining convoy into the drop zone in the hopes that they'll survive long enough to evac. The Stalker lays down covering fire against the Castiel. Two of the flyers here need to go down if I have any hope to actually sticking this out. The Screamer can't take them down. The next Kiroshi Annihilator drops a little bit more damage down on one of the carriers than it can sustain. We're down to 2 carriers, but it's the last enemy mech to fire, so I will get 2 out and succeed. As a final parting shot, the ELRM carrier drops some SAMs on the Castiel, critically damaging its rotors, but not killing it.
The objective is secured, Commander.
The rest of this mission is just going to be running away. I need to get to the evac zone. The Highlander and the Stalker will be tough. The Screamer can make it there without a problem. So I will need to move these 2 down. The Stalker had 2 total rounds left in him. He threw them both at the Castell. I think he got the Castell down, but that leaves the Efreet still out there. I think I can outrun everything but the Efreet. So I'm going to end up having to take some incoming damage from the Efreet as I continue to move towards the exit. With that Efreet providing cover, there is no way that the Screamer can get in there and take out all of the remaining land units, which would take me quite a bit of time and finessing to try to do if it was down. But this way we can get down into cover, run along the line of that road, and get into the evac point.
Orders. Reserving action.
Reserving action. Yes, Commander.
So with the evac, let's review. I found that a difficulty level 21 mission with a difficulty level 13 crew is possible. As a dream sequence, I'm quite happy with how everything came out. I figured we were going to wipe completely, so I'm actually surprised that I made it out with a successful result and some mechs. So from that point of view, I'm impressed. 34 legendary elite or legendary heroic mechs of assault and heavy classes is insane. It does lead me to think that if I'm going to try to do this again in the future, for real, I really need to think about redesigning some of my mechs. The ammunition that I've been using is very helpful for DPS, but it has an endurance problem that this particular mission really does emphasize that we have. And that being, of course, once you run out of your DPS ammo, you don't do any more DPS. So we need ways to really take out mechs over the long haul. In addition to that, being able to do damage in a way that drops mechs quickly is also imperative. The melee mechs were invaluable in this mission and really show us the need for having that kind of damage. I think I need to also look for some of the headhunter type missions, mechs. So there are some specific fire control systems that allow for headhunting and gives you a much better shot for the heads. And I feel like that might be a better round. I know that in the last BattleTech series I ran with the Marauder using Gauss for headhunting, it was very effective. I need to find a way to do that, either to have overwhelming DPS, which it's really hard to find, or have some way of targeting stuff that is going to end up leveraging what I need to do. There's also looking at the Inferno again. Inferno certainly is a possibility. There was a few times things were overheating. I think the mines were working out pretty well, but it just takes time. Got to let them run around on them. There's a few mechs that I was able to take out because the mines did a lot of work. The other one would be maybe increasing the amount of acid that I'm carrying for those functions. But with that, I think the dream that Dex wakes up from is mostly a nightmare. We will continue on now from where we started before the mission started. We will continue on out, and I will see you in the next episode. Thank you very much for joining me. Take care. Bye-bye.
Creeping through the shadows and the corners of your mind. I go with the windows, I run but I don't hide. I hear the call of the wild, whispering the name. No, I can't be tamed. My heart belongs to the night. I'm alone, I'm alone, I'm a lone wolf. 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 I'm a